Hi, Kathy.
Good morning.
Hi, Julio. So nice to meet you visually like this. I'm Ilsa Fender. I'm part of the IPM staff here in Cleveland.
Oh, great to meet you.
Yeah, I've heard so many incredible things about you from Joe, from Vicky, from so many others. Thank you for being
Oh,
such a wonderful friend to us.
oh my goodness. It's a privilege and an honor. I brag about you guys all the time.
Aw. Well, I hear you do pretty amazing work in your own community, especially with the young folks. And so it's great to have someone we can collaborate with this way, because the
Oh,
next generation is so important for our world.
I know they are. They really are.
So hopefully Vicky will be joining us shortly. I just actually had a meeting with Joe. He's here in Cleveland.
Oh,
With his family through next Wednesday. So it was great to have him here.
oh,
We,
that's
we
great.
always had such a great working relationship when we shared an office. So while he's been in Maine, I've really missed that.
Oh, that's so
Yeah,
great. How
yeah.
long have you been with IPM?
I have been with IPM. I just completed my 16 years.
Wow,
I know, it's
congratulations.
crazy.
That's great.
It feels like it went by in the blink of an eye, and other days it feels like every one of those 16 years was like just painful.
Oh,
Just depends on, what's going on at the time, because
yeah,
it's heartbreaking when you see the needs in our world and in our communities, and you wish you could do so much more, but
yeah.
you're limited in capacity. So
Mhm.
that's where the heartbreak comes in. But, honestly, I could get emotional just thinking about the remarkable work that's being done all around the world by so many, inspiring, truly remarkable people. And to be part of this organization has been such a tremendous blessing to me in ways that I could never express.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I was struck, excuse me, still getting over, I've had a cough, so I
Oh,
feel a bit congested, but I was struck by I was just in El Salvador. I saw Vicky,
yes, yes.
and so a friend of mine said, "Hey, I need to make it." He's from El Salvador originally, graduated in the U.S. with a master's. He said, "I need a stole for my graduation." I said, "Well, I know the perfect people." So we talked to the tailors over there, and they made us a stole, and it was only $35, and they
Oh
felt
my
bad
gosh. Oh,
because the price of material has gone up, and they just said it's so expensive. We're sorry. And for me, the value of 35 is much different than for them, right? And
yeah.
we gave them the money, and Vicky told me, they said they were, or actually not Vicky, Melissa told me, who's out there in El Salvador. She's like, it meant so much to them
Yeah.
because
Oh yeah.
we get over a hump. And I was just struck, the difference of what that makes from, that kind of money for me versus them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, their
So
hearts are beautiful. Hi, Vicky.
Hi, good morning. Hi, how are you all?
Good, good.
Good
We're
to
just chit-chatting a little. Vicky, I was just telling Julio that I just finished my meeting with Joe in the courtyard here. So it was great to see him. We were going to meet in the office, but it is so warm in here. Uh-oh.
Ooh.
It's not letting me.
Oh, okay, well.
Hola Julio, how are you?
Estás
Bien, bien, ya mejor. ¿Y tú?
mejorando también.
So even though Joe thought he could do the Zoom meeting from our beautiful courtyard area, I think the reception was not very good. So he is up in the office in the heat with me. So he'll be joining us in just a few minutes.
Okay, perfect. I think you might have some like interference, Ilse, I'm guessing. Because whenever there's, at least in our office, whenever we have like all the computers, you hear like some background noise. So it's good if either one of you can have like.
I will get, yeah, I'll get my, thank you, Vicky.
Of course.
La experta de Zoom.
After all this time I've had to learn. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, the CCM chapel are my kids.
Sorry, what?
The person that says CCM chapel, those are my
Oh,
kids.
oh, so you just say hi.
Hi guys.
Hi.
How are you?
Oh, it's not
Good.
18. Oh, now it's.
Good, good. Very
I told them they had to be here today.
Hi.
I'm back. Sorry, my internet is going. It went in and out. Hopefully it'll stay on.
My internet is, oh my gosh, it's coming in and out, but I'll know what I can do.
Mine too. I wonder if it's something going on in the world.
I recently discovered, I always thought it was my internet, the one who was giving me problems, but it's actually the power of where I live, because like it comes in and out. So, but it's just like for a second, but the Wi-Fi doesn't, come back so quickly. So it drops me out of each call. But I've learned to use my phone data. It's easier. Está. Okay, there we are. Ah.
I'm gonna get a glass of water. I'll be right back.
Of course.
You all right?
Yeah, bye.
Here's Joe.
Upside down.
Oh.
Let's see if this will work. Hey, I do exist.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah. All right. So I can't see. Oh, Julio, hola. ¿Qué tal? Muy bien.
Namaste. Good morning. Good evening.
Hi, Sunny. Good
Good
evening.
morning, Son.
How are you all?
We're good. How are you?
Thank you. How
We're
are you?
good.
I'm also good. Thank you.
We're going to have a little bit of a background because I was trying to call from the courtyard so that Ilsa and I, but for some reason the connection wasn't working out there. So we'll have to take turns muting ourselves. Should we start, Ilsa, or do you want to wait?
I think we're still waiting for Father Vidal, right, Julio? I think you're muted, Julio.
Let's wait till 11:05. If he's not on, we'll just run with it. We'll give it 2 more minutes.
Okay, perfect. I'll also text Anita and Adela just to remind them.
We always get a mix of participants, some on Zoom, some on Facebook. So we just never know how many are going to show up on Zoom.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hi, Dorothy. Nice to have you with us.
Good to be here.
Are you still in the States or are you back in Kenya?
I'm back in Kenya. I got
Oh,
back 2 days ago.
oh,
Yeah. And Joe, guess who I had lunch with?
I was going to ask, have you met a certain partner of mine?
Yes.
Great, great. I'm happy
Thank
you
you.
two were able to connect.
Yeah.
I'm in Cleveland, as you might be able to tell.
Oh,
Fan that looks like it's going to cut my head off, but it's okay.
no, that's not okay.
how are your parents?
They're good. I think they're on the call, or at least my dad was on the call earlier. Thanks for asking.
Lovely. Say hi to them.
I will.
Yeah, I can see
I was
your
in
dad
Yang.
waving. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyang is fine.
Great. Where did you and Aline have lunch while we're waiting?
At home, at my place. And your mother-in-law. I've lost Joe. Did you fall off?
Yeah, his connection dropped.
Oh, I can see Mom. Good to see them.
Thank you.
Yeah, I had lunch with your mom, mother-in-law, and Aline at home.
Oh, my mother-in-law as well. Wow.
Yeah.
That must have been really interesting.
Yeah, it was good. Good to see them.
Good.
I was meeting her for the first time.
Yeah, it was good.
I think Father Vidal has joined us now, so I think we can begin. Buenos días, Padre Vidal. Gracias por unirse.
Buenos días a ustedes, un placer compartir con ustedes y gracias por invitarme.
Mucho gusto. Thank you, everyone. It's nice meeting all of you, and thank you for the invitation.
Vicky, I haven't transitioned to Facebook yet. Are we? So if we're ready, then I will do so now. Okay, so it'll just take a few minutes and you'll all see the live on Facebook. So hold on just a second. Okay.
Thank you.
So welcome everyone to IPM's monthly virtual forum.
Vicky, do you want to welcome everyone? I'm happy to do so, but if you'd like to.
Of course, Elsa, no problem. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to IPM's monthly virtual forum. We are very happy today to be commemorating Immigrant Heritage and Refugee Awareness Month. That is our topic for the month. And we are honored and thrilled to have two wonderful guests. One of them is Father Vidal. He is a co-rector of the San Mateo Church in, I'm sorry, please correct me because I have a hard time saying this word. Hyattsville, I think it is. I always say it incorrectly. Please correct me, Julio.
Hyattsville.
Oh, yeah, thank you. And we also have our wonderful friend of IPM, Julio Hernandez. He actually has been in now 2 immersions, a virtual immersion and an in-person immersion to El Salvador, and he's also part of the IPM board, and he's a member of the transformational learning working group. So we're very thankful to have them both on the call. They will be sharing a little bit of their work in relation to the migrant community. So thank you both, Julio and Father Vidal, for being here. And the floor is yours whenever you'd like to start. I also would like to say before we start that Father Vidal would like to give his presentation in Spanish, so I will be translating for him. Thank you.
Okay, welcome everybody. I want to just appreciate your presence here and your time, and also want to thank Vidal Rivas for joining me. He's a great leader in our community and very happy to have him join us. Originally, he's from El Salvador, and my family is from El Salvador, but I was born in the United States. And I would like to pass it now to Padre Vidal.
Gracias por invitarme y compartir. Yo quiero inspirarme un poco en el texto de San Mateo, capítulo 2, del versículo 13 al 15. Y nos habla cómo la familia de José, María y Jesús tienen que emigrar a Egipto. Se vuelven también refugiados en Egipto. Y Jesús, como niño, va a vivir esas experiencias que hoy los niños vienen a este país buscando un refugio, buscando un hogar más seguro. Tristemente, las políticas, tanto en Europa como en Asia y en este continente, tienen que emigrar no para buscar una vacación, no porque en realidad haya un confort, sino la necesidad misma de situaciones que se dan a través de políticas impuestas de países superpotencias, como de grandes corporaciones que llegan a nuestra tierra y provocan inestabilidad, y la gente se ve forzada a salir. En mi parroquia de San Mateo.
Padre, perdone, si gusta, le voy a traducir hasta ahí.
Oh, sorry, disculpe, pensé que estaba traduciendo simultáneamente.
No,
Lo
perdone.
siento.
No, disculpe. So I would like to start off based on the scriptures, on the Bible, and I would like to recall to the part of the scripture that shares about Joseph, Mary, and Jesus, and how they had to migrate, and how Jesus was a child that had to migrate and to move to another place, and how we can now relate this Jesus, who was a child, who was a migrant, to all these other kids right now, to all these other children who are migrating, and these kids that are migrating, and families who are migrating, who are not doing so because they are on a vacation. They are doing so because the politics of the countries they live in force them to do so. Adelante, padre, disculpe.
Siguiendo en la misma dirección del texto bíblico, se podrán ustedes imaginar lo que sintió María y José y Jesús al llegar a Egipto sin conocer la cultura, sin saber la lengua, ni la religión, y tanto ni la comida, y tener que adaptarse. Lo mismo viven nuestros hermanos inmigrantes al venir a esta nación.
Still basing us in the scripture, you can understand how Mary and how each of them felt while they had to travel to Egypt, and they didn't know the food, they didn't know the language, they didn't know the culture. They had to adapt themselves to a whole new place, to a whole new culture. And we can understand then how the people who are migrating have to do the exact same thing.
Para un norteamericano como para un europeo que tienen la facilidad de moverse por cualquier lugar por los medios que se vive, se le hace difícil comprender el proceso de un pobre latinoamericano o centroamericano o caribeño que emigra a este país, que con costo conoce el entorno donde vive.
For people that are North American or European who can easily move around worldwide and through almost any means of transportation, it's difficult to understand how for people of Latin America and the Caribbean, it's so difficult to get to this country and to adapt to the new culture.
Y al venir a esta gran nación, nos encontramos con un gran problema, porque la mayoría de los inmigrantes latinoamericanos, como caribeños y centroamericanos, vienen del campo, de pequeños pueblos que con costo tenían alimentos para comer, y los principios de educación eran compartir con los animales, y lo que les sobraba tiraban a los animales. Por eso que al venir a este país muchas veces dejan tiradas las bolsas plásticas, las botellas de agua, de soda, o cuando toman cerveza, el escándalo, el relajo que hacen, porque ellos viven en el campo y la música la ponían a alto sonido, y al venir aquí, en su mente, ese proceso de adaptación y de la inculturización se les hace muy difícil.
So also something that it's very hard for people who are migrating, and that sometimes it's not understood in the States, is that these people who are migrating from Central America, from South America, and from the Caribbean usually come from the countrysides, from very small towns. So whenever they arrive, they have their customs from those parts of the countryside they come from. So they can be very loud, and they are not used to, they are used to having their food and give what's left over to the animals. That they have that culture of caring for the animals as well. So whenever they're here, you can see that's why maybe they might be a little messy and leave garbage around. He say the word relajo, which is being like very loud and being like very I would even say outgoing. So people don't really understand, and they have to make that switch in their head to that culture and to deculturize themselves.
Si vemos la figura de Jesús cuando estuvo en Egipto, María y José. Dice la Biblia que ellos, después de emigrar por la amenaza del rey Herodes que los quiere matar, cuando ellos ya tienen una edad prudencial, regresan nuevamente. Significa que en esa tierra ellos no se sintieron plenamente adaptados para que hayan emigrado. Si Egipto hubiera llenado todas las condiciones, la familia no hubiera regresado nuevamente a Israel. Pero al regresar a Israel nos encontramos nuevamente con las mismas condiciones no saludables y tienen que ir a emigrar a Nazaret, donde Jesús crece, pero llamémosle, no es la tierra de su nacimiento, porque él nació en Belén y no lo aceptaron ni en Nazaret, ni lo aceptaron en Belén, como sucede con los latinos acá o los inmigrantes en este país. Muchas veces lo siguen viendo, a pesar que nacen aquí, tienen nacionalidad, lo siguen viendo con menosprecio, no al nivel de la cultura norteamericana.
So another important point we can take from the Bible is that when Jesus was of a certain age, they decided to go back to Israel because Egypt didn't fulfill their needs completely. However, they were not well received, so they had to travel to Nazareth, and they were not well received then either, as well as in Belén. And you can make this comparison with the people who are migrants in the US, because even though they have arrived there, they are not well seen, or even if they even if they have had parents who have traveled there and they have grown there, they are not seen as equal.
Cuando estamos hablando de un refugio, estamos imaginándonos un lugar seguro, plenamente seguro, bajo todas las condiciones, donde uno tiene estabilidad emocional, física, psicológica y espiritual. O sea, que se llena todas las áreas de la persona.
When we are talking about a refuge, we talk about a place that fulfills and that makes people feel safe in different areas of their life, physically, psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually.
Solamente imaginémonos en esas madres de familia que se arriesgan a traer a sus hijos por tierra y no vienen ellas ni el esposo, sino que los niños, como el que sucedió esta semana, de ese niño de Guatemala con 5 añitos que fue abandonado en la frontera, un niño con tantos traumas y dolores. Eso lo pensamos nosotros que tenemos cierto grado de estudio, pero no papá y mamá que vienen con un nivel académico que no pueden ni leer ni escribir. Ellos piensan que es más importante la seguridad, el hambre y arriesgarse a venir a este país buscando ese refugio, que este país sea la verdadera casa donde se respetan los derechos, la dignidad y se valora a todo ser humano. Por eso es que se arriesgan a venir sin importarle que su niño pueda ser devorado por una fiera, que pueda ser violado, usado como tráfico humano. Ellos se arriesgan, es tanta la situación difícil que viven en sus países.
You can only imagine how the mothers of these children who are migrating feel. For example, of this little boy that was from Guatemala of this week, the news said that he was sent alone, and these parents are sending their kids alone because for them, who maybe don't have a higher level of education or that are just focused on having their kids have something to eat and survive, to them that's the main priority, for their kids to arrive to a refuge, to arrive to a safe place. So for their kids to be safe, they don't really stop to think, you know, this kid can go through many threats on their way to the United States. An animal can eat them, they can be raped, or absolutely anything else can happen to them. For the parents, what is important is that the kid gets to that place so they can be safe. It's that ultimate destination that they are looking for.
Tengo 23 años viviendo en este país y vine como un residente, ya que la iglesia católica romana me trajo para trabajar en una parroquia y al venir a este país vi el dolor y el sufrimiento y la marginación de los hermanos inmigrantes. Y desde entonces yo lucho y trabajo para que el inmigrante tenga una vida más digna y saludable en este país.
I have been living in this country for 23 years now, and I came here because the Catholic Church brought me so I could work here at the church. And from that moment, I saw the suffering and the hardships that our migrants brothers and sisters are going through. And that's when I knew I needed to work to help them.
Me siento muy honrado y bendecido conocer personas como ustedes, con un corazón tan grande, que luchan por la justicia y la solidaridad y que sirven de inspiración y protección para muchos de nosotros los hermanos inmigrantes.
I feel blessed and honored to meet people like you who fight for justice and who stand with the people who are migrating and that stand for justice of those who are migrating.
Como se dice en la vida de la fe, ustedes son como ángeles de Dios, personas que llaman a la solidaridad, que luchan sin complejo por la justicia y la dignidad de nuestro pueblo, que necesita de personas como ustedes.
I think you are angels of God, people who are committed to solidarity and who fight for justice, and the world needs people like you.
Tristemente, al Congreso y al Senado y a la Casa Blanca no llegan personas como ustedes, llegan políticos que pierden la conciencia de para qué los eligieron, pierden su vocación humana y se vuelven irresponsables creando leyes que oprimen a nuestro pueblo y que a los inmigrantes se les ve como enemigos y no como agentes de cambio.
Sadly, the people who are in politics, in Congress, in state, in the Senate are not people like you. It's people who actually get corrupted and make laws that oppress our brothers and sisters who are migrating.
Al igual que el reverendo Julio y mi persona, queremos decirles que aquí estamos y que vamos a luchar juntos con ustedes y que en medio de nuestras limitaciones, decirles que nuestras iglesias, nuestras comunidades son su familia, son sus hogares y hay personas tan nobles que luchan y han entendido que todos somos iguales y que tenemos la misma grandeza y la misma dignidad y que esta es la casa para todos.
Reverend Julio and I both want you to know that we are here, we are fighting, we are your family, and that we believe this world is the house of everyone.
Cuando Estados Unidos comprenda plenamente que es un país fundamentado en la inmigración y vea plenamente sus raíces y entienda lo que es su esencia, será una mejor nación y donde toda la comunidad comprenda que en verdad no hay inmigrantes, sino que todos somos la raza humana y que la tierra es el hogar común donde estamos llamados a vivir con dignidad, el mundo será diferente.
Once the United States understands that its history and its beginning has been based on migration, we will be a better country and we will understand that no one is a migrant, that we are all part of the same human race and that this is the house of everyone.
Y cuando las iglesias, sin importar la denominación, entiendan que no solamente basta leer la Biblia, levantar la mano y mirar hacia el cielo, vivir aplaudiendo y solamente cantando y diciendo gloria a Dios, sino que entiendan que alabar a Dios implica amar al hermano, a sus semejantes y saber descubrir en el rostro de los que sufren y marginados e inmigrantes el rostro de Dios vivo. Entonces las religiones y las iglesias serán verdaderos santuarios de Dios.
And when the churches, no matter their denominations, understand that being part of a religion is not only reading the scriptures, but being there for your siblings of the world and being there in solidarity and fighting for justice for each other, only then will they be truly connected to God.
Que nuestros corazones y nuestros hogares en verdad sean casas de amor para que nadie se sienta refugiado, sino que se sienta en el seno de un hogar y parte de las familias. Gracias y que Dios le bendiga.
Gracias, Padre. May our homes are not, I hope that our homes are not a refugee, but that they are a place of love where no one feels that they are being a refugee, that they feel at home and loved. Thank you and God bless you. Muchísimas gracias, Padre Vidal. Muy, muy agradecidos.
Gracias a ustedes por compartir y permitirme estar con ustedes.
Y
Gracias.
muchas gracias, Padre, por la fundación teológica que nos dio ahora. Thank you, Father Vidal, for giving us this theological grounding today. For myself, I would like to share with you a little presentation, the reality of the immigrant. And as Father Vidal was speaking, it really struck me that we as Americans don't really understand the difficulty that it is to travel. So I'd like to show you a map. These are all the countries that we as US passport holders can travel to without extra requirements. And this is, for me, as Padre Vidal was speaking, really struck me because I just returned from El Salvador. We work with an organization called Faith in Action. We are a part of a local organization of that larger organization called Congregation Action Network. And 6 countries went to El Salvador. We were supposed to have 4 of our staff members from Faith in Action in Haiti join us in El Salvador. We, thankfully, the Bishop of Zaragoza, it's with the Z, Vicky, help me, the big city with the Z, Zacatecoluca. Zacatecoluca. Zacatecoluca, the Bishop of Zacatecoluca wrote a letter for the Haitian staff. El Salvador said, yes, you can come. We'll give the Haitians a visa to enter. Well, you cannot fly straight from Haiti to El Salvador, nor can you fly to Mexico. They had to take a bus from their countryside village in Haiti to the Dominican Republic. When the staff members arrived in the Dominican, they were denied entry. Even though they had a letter from the Bishop of Zacatecoluca and El Salvador, and they had a letter from our organization saying we would like them to attend this conference. And then only one was allowed into the Dominican. From the Dominican, the staff member flew to Panama, where there is no requirement for a visa for anybody. Anybody can enter Panama without a visa. And when the staff member arrived in Panama, they said, sorry, you're not allowed to enter. And we said, our people were on the phone with them. And they said, no, they said, this law that no one needs a visa is everybody except for Haiti. So she flew back to the Dominican. And then once again, we're on the phone trying to seek help. From Dominican, she flew to Colombia, and then Colombia to El Salvador. But the incredible difficulty for a Haitian person to travel is unfathomable for us who have US passports. We just don't understand. And Haitians face a special kind of discrimination in the world. For me, I live in a neighborhood called Arlington, Virginia. If you've not been to Arlington, it's very interesting. The cities in the East Coast are very diverse, and also the West Coast. Maybe even, I don't know middle America too much. Maybe Joe and Izzy can teach me a little bit more. But where I live is very interesting. We have a lot of Guatemalans. Actually, they're concentrated in a certain neighborhood. Actually, our little city is very small, not a big city. Near where I live, there's also a little park called Adlimbamba, because we have so many people from Cochabamba, Bolivia, that live there. You can find very good Bolivian food. But Guatemala has been on my heart recently because I have learned so much about Guatemala. I had no idea. So I'd like to share with you a little bit about the reason why there's so many immigrants here. Because oftentimes people talk about, these people have a choice to come. And a writer said to use the word choice for immigration is a disservice to the word choice. So something that will help you kind of understand the reality of immigrants today is a famous mural by Diego Rivera. I don't know if you've ever seen this mural. It's a very powerful image. It's called, let me pull up my, so this mural is called, forgive me, I have it written down, Glorious Victory, the Glorious Victory. Now, this is portraying what happened in Guatemala because of the United Fruit Company. The United Fruit Company was the biggest landowner in Latin America. Not only in Latin America, but in Guatemala. In Guatemala, they owned, so throughout Latin America in the 1930s, they owned 3.5 million acres in Central America and the Caribbean. They were the single largest landowner in Guatemala. They owned 42% of the land of Guatemala. They owned about 60,000 acres of land. They not only owned land, they had created their own railway system, their own telegraph system. They had their own hospitals, and only people that worked for them could use them. You know, so much so that at one point they had built an extension of their railway in an area that they stopped growing fruit. And they actually destroyed the railway, even though the local people could have used that. It could have been a local infrastructure investment, but they destroyed it. And after World War II, there was a revolution, and they had their own elected president named Hernandez. And Hernandez, thankfully, had a great transformation of the country. He started to improve Guatemala in major ways, and they actually enjoyed a great deal of success in economic growth. They also changed the constitution. They ended censorship in the country. They banned racial discrimination. So in the country, in Guatemala, they had mixed of indigenous. They had mestizos, who were Spanish indigenous. They also had garifonas, which were the African and indigenous people that were also another tribe throughout the Caribbean. Also, they decriminalized labor unions, and Hernandez did something very, very dangerous, which actually was probably what ended his life. And he started land reform in Guatemala. There was something called the Decree 900, and it was to redistribute undeveloped lands of large property owners to be given to landless farmers, which constituted 90% of the population. So 2% of the population owned the majority of the land, and of that 2%, the United Fruit Company was the largest. They owned 42% of that. So if you can imagine what this did, there was then at that point, the United Fruit Company went to speak to Eisenhower, the president. Eisenhower then met with some very important people. So the first one was John Foster Dulles, the US Secretary of State. There's Eisenhower in the bomb. Foster is the one with the khaki outfit. And then Allen Dulles, the director of the CIA. They were all worked at the United Fruit Company at one point. And they decided to actually review the law of land reform in Guatemala. And they then labeled this for land reform as communist. And that gave them the necessary tools then to go into the country and start a revolution. Now, this is so significant because this is the birthplace of both, number one, the U.S. foreign multinational corporations. So this was a U.S. entry into the multinational corporation. But also this began in the U.S. foreign policy, a form of destabilization and propaganda. Now, Guatemala was first offered by the United Fruit Company to pay $1.185 million for the, sorry, let me phrase that. Guatemala made an offer to the United Fruit Company. They said, this is what you have put down on your taxes, what the land is worth, $1.185 million. We'll pay you that money. Well, the United Fruit Company's counteroffer, they said, no, we don't want $1.58 million. We want, and in your mind, try to guess, what how much money do you think they wanted? They actually asked not for 1 million, but they asked for $19.355 million. If we were to calculate that money, a author said that in 2021, that would be $202 million today. So on their tax forms, they're saying this is what our money is worth, but in reality, this was what it was worth. But even though all that money, Guatemala didn't have it to pay. So then the US then started in their own, or after a judicial review of the 1954 Agrarian Reform Act, the CIA and Truman, they enacted something called PV Fortune to overthrow this progressive government. So these three figures then gave money to John, I don't know how to say his name, Purifoy, the ambassador to Guatemala, and he is the gentleman in the behind John Foster Douglas with the money in hand, handing it out. And then the gentleman, Carlos Castilla Armas, was an Air Force colonel. And he is wearing what's called an Eisenhower jacket in this, this painting. And you can see the money in his pocket. Diego Rivera received a lot of criticism for this mural. There was a reviewer, Elizabeth Malkin, in the New York Times. Her article was called Rivera, Frida Mania, Other Half Gets His Due. And she wrote about this piece. She goes, the centerpiece of the show was Glorious Victory, a mural Rivera painted at the end of his life. And after the American-backed coup that brought down the democratically elected government of Guatemala in 1954, it is pure propaganda, almost caricature. So you can see the criticism that Diego Rivera faced for his mural and the truth that he was telling. So the new policy that was enacted in Guatemala overthrew this government. It enacted covert operations and local proxies. What created then the civil war from 1960 to 1980. People were disappeared, assassinated. There was counterinsurgency, a resettlement campaign, and genocidal war. What's really striking is that the centerpiece of the although in the center there's something going on, your eye is, there's all this color, but then in the right side of the mural, there's a black figure in black. This is the Archbishop Mariano Rosell. So I can't see the name very well. Let me see if I can find his name. Arellano. And this bishop wrote a prayer was released after this counterinsurgency measures were enacted in Guatemala. He wrote a prayer and said, the people of Guatemala must rise as one man against this enemy. The enemy is communism, of Arbenz. Our struggle against communism must be a crusade of prayer and sacrifice, as well as intensive spreading of the social doctrine of the church and a total rejection of communist propaganda for the love of God in Guatemala. And this was released under the Archbishop's name. But you know who wrote this prayer? I'll give you a chance to answer. Who do you think wrote this prayer? The CIA. So when we ask the question, what is the current situation of immigrants? There is a historical element that we as Americans often forget in this debate. All these figures, what is left in the country is what you can see in the background. Violence, poverty. You see the gentleman carrying a banana. The bananas with torn pants, poverty. You see the children who have died. The destruction of future generations. There is some anthropologists that are studying the border, which really struck me, the language that they use. They use a word called embodiment. And they write that the human body is where biological and the social interact. So that the bodies that they are, so all this violence, yes, it ended in the 80s. It's still affecting the country today, still causing poverty. People are fleeing poverty. in our countries. And the policy that we as America have enacted to stop immigration is called the deterrence through prevention. And what they're doing is they're funneling the immigrants into the most dangerous part of the border of US-Mexico, into the deserts, into the mountains. The mountains and the desert are the weapons that we use to erase people. So these anthropologists that are studying the human remains, there's one in particular, Angela Soler, who writes that many of the human remains exhibited traces of malnutrition and chronic infection etched in bone and teeth. It blighted them in early influence in infancy and early childhood. Indigenous people from southern Mexico and Central America suffered centuries of racism, exploitation, and brute poverty, reflected in the only archive left in the desert, and that is their bones and their teeth. Not only are we enacting a policy, and at one point our policy, we used to, in America, used to believe that it was successful by the number of deaths, but there was so much uproar that they stopped using that statistic. Also, now the US is from 2017 on to today, we have separated families from their children. Under the Trump administration is called zero tolerance. And I would like to show you a picture. In 2019, this picture was released from the American Academy of Pediatrics. And they asked the child to draw what they saw. And this is a drawing that they had made in this therapy session. And can you imagine, as we imagine the mother crossing the desert, can you imagine the lives of these children, how deeply impacted they are now? To be detained, not only children who live in poverty in Central America do not understand what air conditioning is. So these detention centers are called hieleras in Spanish, which means freezers. These children are detained, separated in cages, away from their parents. Some don't even know their own names because they're too little. Can you imagine the level of damage that we have caused these children? It's still happening today. We speak about Guatemala. So I'd like to read to you a piece about currently, it says, children who have fled violence, natural disasters, and horrible circumstances and have been entrusted to the care of aunts, uncles, cousins, other siblings, and other family members are also often separated from caregivers who are their parents. And we Americans probably don't understand this very well. Americans, I have a friend of mine who at 18, he turned 18, his parents said goodbye. It's time for you to go, you're an adult now. For a Latin American, this is an impossibility. We often see, excuse me, each other as family, even if we are not related. I grew up in a Protestant church where we refer to each other as hermano y hermana, brother and sister. Excuse me. Still getting over a cough. 1 second. So the damage that this has done is profound to our community, and it continues happening. In 2021, fiscal year 2021, we recorded 122,000 children taken into custody. Human Rights Watch just recorded that a 14-year-old boy who had traveled from Guatemala with his 29-year-old sister and her son, they're approached by the Border Patrol and they asked for asylum. They're detained in separate cages. On the third day, the young boy said, on the third day, they took me out of my cage and said I would be separated from my sister. But they did not tell me where I was going. I don't understand why they separated us. They didn't give me a chance to say goodbye. No one should be treated like this. And sadly, it continues to happen. Even though that the rhetoric has changed, the practice has continued. So Padre Vidal and I worked very hard that this may change. We are inspired by the stories of these young children, these men, our community members, because they are the ones who tell us how we should act, how we should advocate for each other. We regard each person as valuable and precious, no matter how poor or rich they are. And Guatemala particularly is on my mind because we have a woman still living in a church here in Virginia in what we call sanctuary. So it's a practice where churches will house a person who's under the threat of deportation to defend them and for them to remain. And she, it's unreal that you meet people, when you read things, then you start meeting people around that. And I was reading more about Guatemala. And she told me about her story, fleeing the military as they have killed them and the indigenous people and how they had to hide in the caves. And she is here because of this terrible violence that has been enacted on indigenous people. So as Father Vidal taught us, that the earth is the home of all of us, that we are one people. And our prayers that we can become that way and that our practice can be this way. So I'd like to open it up for questions. Father Vidal and I are here. Vicky, if you could translate for Padre Vidal, that'd be great.
Of course. Does anyone have questions? Yo le voy a traducir las preguntas, Padre Vidal, así que no se vaya a preocupar.
Vicky, maybe you could translate for me. I just want to, muchas gracias para el Padre, el intervento también de Julio. This is really important for me to hear this during Refugee Awareness Month. I first was connected with IPM through my work with refugees in Rome and continue to be moved and challenged by what's the best way for IPM to respond to the kind of stories that both Julio and the Padre have shared. So thank you both for your really powerful interventions. And it's part of the continuing discussion at IPM is what is our best way to continue to welcome the stranger and to support those who do so.
Mencionaba Joe, Padre Vidal, él es el CEO de IPM y estaba mencionando pues muchas gracias a ambos y pues que él se siente inspirado, pues él ha trabajado también con personas migrantes y refugiadas en Roma y que mucho de lo que ustedes han mencionado el día de hoy pues también está relacionado con el trabajo de justicia que inspira a IPM, que muchas gracias.
Gracias. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any other comment or question you would like to ask or say?
Vicky, I don't know if there's an echo. Is there an echo? Is there?
Yeah, a little bit. I think Joe muted himself, so you can go.
Oh, good. Yeah, I mean, I am so humbled in hearing what Father Vidal and Julio shared with us today. I'm still trying to process everything. The stories that were shared are absolutely heartbreaking, that anyone is, considered less valued or valuable or priceless than the other. The heartbreaking stories of families who are looking for better lives for their children and would send them off on their own just with that hope, and I think, that the lack of understanding and empathy that this world has is just a real shame. And I think that's why IPM is so grateful for this opportunity to hear both from Julio and Father Vidal about their work. And we want to continue to collaborate in ways to promote and support that kind of awareness. And I think, the value, of IPM's immersion program works to support those kind of efforts to where individuals can have a better understanding of different cultures, of different realities and dialogue. And we are just so grateful again, to have heard these stories and to learn more about your work. And we truly look forward to ways that we can continue to work together to address this crucial and important issue.
Thank you, Ilse. Bueno, y mencionaba Ilse que de nuevo muchas gracias a ambos por estar con nosotros, que realmente está todavía un poco en shock de todo lo que pues ha escuchado de parte de ambos y que parte de su corazón escuchar pues estas historias de las familias separadas, los niños separados de sus papás y el sacrificio que tienen que hacer los papás dejando a sus hijos ir solos. Y entre las cosas que mencionaba ella también, pues decía que para ella esta es la importancia de estos espacios que estamos tratando de hacer con IPM para generar esta conciencia y este conocimiento que ustedes han brindado el día de hoy, que le gusta o le gustaría ver de qué otras maneras podemos seguir colaborando juntos para ver cómo se puede seguir creciendo o generando más conocimiento y más conciencia de toda esta situación que está pasando. Y nuevamente, pues, les agradece la participación. Thank you, dear Ilse. Any other questions or comments?
Solamente yo quisiera agradecerles esa parte. Yo acabo de regresar a El Salvador hace una semana. Voy a tener mañana 8 días que regresé a El Salvador. Y decirles que El Salvador está cada día caminando un poco en la seguridad que no teníamos, que habíamos perdido hace 50 años. El Salvador, yo pude quedarme a dormir un día frente a la playa, lo que no hacíamos desde hace años por la inseguridad y por los grupos de pandilla. Pero ustedes como norteamericanos pueden escribir al gobierno norteamericano que deje de presionar a los gobiernos que están luchando por la seguridad de sus países y que dejen de dar dinero a organizaciones a través de las USAID que da dinero financiando grupos que muchas veces dan inestabilidad en nuestros países.
So Father Vidal was sharing with us that he had recently been to El Salvador. He was here around 8 days ago, and that he feels that El Salvador has returned to a place of being a little safer, because he was able to do something he couldn't do a long time ago, which was to sleep in front of the beach, and that he believes it's important for USA citizens to ask the government to stop putting pressure on other governments on how they should run their things. So yeah, basically more or less that was the idea. Thank you. Muchas gracias, Padre. O sea que comió pupusas recientemente.
Yeah.
I was teasing him, but he just had pupusas recently. Pupusas is the Salvadoran national dish. So hopefully whenever Dorothy or Sonny or Vindia come, you will taste pupusas.
Yeah. Nice.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else? Any other questions or comments you would like to add?
Thank you so much, Julio and Padre Vidal, for your presentation. I think it's really, really important to have this knowledge, a perspective of that all of us are human beings, and not because I'm from El Salvador or because Ilse is from the United States, she has different rights or privilege or whatever. And I mean that I think that the meaning of being part of, being human is like something that should be enough to take care of each other. And most of the time with policies for migration and any other kind of policies, instead of create this unity, they spread a discourse like the other is a threat for me. The other is not good because it's going to steal something from me. So that's kind of discourse, I think I don't know, it's something that is behind those policies that doesn't sound good, and that people misunderstand the value of being humans. So thank you so much, and that's my reflection from this presentation.
Neida estaba compartiendo su reflexión sobre la presentación, de nuevo agradeciéndoles y diciéndoles que le gustó mucho pues esta parte de decir que esta es la casa de todos, y de que con la participación que ambos han dado es bien evidente ver esta parte de el discurso que está detrás de estas políticas, ¿no? De que siempre hay alguien que se considera una amenaza. Perdón, tengo bastante ruido de fondo, pero cómo se considera, cómo en este discurso que está detrás de las políticas siempre está la visión de que el otro es una amenaza, cuando realmente no es así. Bueno, creo que tenemos 3 minutos. I think we have around 3 minutes, and I also wanted to share maybe like a little reflection of what you said. Again, just want to say thank you both. Muchas gracias a ambos. I will say it in Spanish and English, but I think what you've brought for us today was so beautiful and so important. My father personally, he's very into Bible studying. He's a Christian, and something that Father Vidal said resonated a lot with me, that it's being part of a religion doesn't mean just, you know, reading the scripture, but living that faith by justice, by being in solidarity with your brothers and sisters of the world. And I loved what he said about the world is the house of everyone. I personally resonate a lot with that. And while in my many meetings with Joe, we always talk about how IPM goes across borders. And this is something Joe usually highlights. And at the beginning, being honest, I was like, that's interesting that Joe highlights that, but I didn't understand until he explained it to me. And I think it's more or less the same that what Father Vidal just said. The world is the home of everyone, and that's why we work across borders of course, circumstance, faith, and physical borders, of course. But I think that's the beauty of each of our organizations and of the church that both Julio and Father Vidal work with and at. That we are trying to do that work of solidarity and justice. And also to resonate with what Ilse said, at least me that has to work in the immersions program, and that I love it so much. Part of why I love it so much is that I think it reminds us that we are all one, that we are all human, and that even though we don't speak the same language, even though we don't have the same customs, we are all connected. We are all one. And it's our humanity, the thing that connects us. So I think these spaces are very important for us to remember that. Y bueno, yo solo estaba comentando como reflexiones de todo lo que habían mencionado. Padre Vidal, de verdad me gustó mucho. Yo les mencionaba que mi papá él es evangélico y a él le gustan mucho los estudios bíblicos. Pero me encantó lo que usted dijo, porque a veces eso es lo que él hace, ¿no? Que quizás a veces se queda mucho en la lectura de las escrituras y se nos olvida un poco más la parte práctica, ¿no? De estar ahí para nuestros hermanos y hermanas. Me encantó esa parte que usted dijo también de cómo esta es la casa de todos. Y pues yo, en nuestras muchas reuniones que tenemos, yo mencionaba que él siempre habla cómo IPM trabaja a través de bordes, para cruzar los bordes, no solo físicos y geográficos, sino de cultura, circunstanciales, económicos, etcétera. Y pues yo mencionaba cómo eso es tan importante, ¿no? Yo trabajo con un programa de experiencias de inmersión que creo que le comentaba a Julio, que vamos a tener una reunión el domingo, que está invitado, por supuesto. Y en este programa, para mí, lo más bonito es ver cómo gente de distintas culturas, que no hablamos el mismo idioma, que no nos hemos visto antes quizás, recordamos en el fondo lo que somos, que es humanos y conectamos con esa humanidad y que pues esa es la belleza de las organizaciones y del trabajo que ustedes están haciendo en su organización y en su iglesia, por supuesto. So everyone, I won't keep you any further. We've reached the end of our forum today, so I want to thank you all so much for being here. Again, a big and warm thank you to Father Vidal and Julio for putting on such an amazing presentation. We can't be grateful enough to both of you, and we'll keep in touch, of course. So everyone, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and a happy weekend, of course. Muchas gracias, Padre Vidal y Julio. Esperamos seguir en contacto, de verdad estuvo precioso lo que han compartido con nosotros y súper poderoso e importante, y pues les deseamos feliz día y un feliz fin de semana. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Have a good day. God bless you.